It's actually been a while since I did an episode of Memories of Games Gone By, and I've actually been fortunate here lately that I've actually been able to play some video games again, and that's been a lot of fun. And the kids are kind of getting to the age that they don't mind, they enjoy watching and not not turning off the console because of the bright shiny light, which is always a plus. That's definitely a plus. So I actually want to do a episode on Breath of Fire 3, and it's not because it's necessarily that much of a memories of games gone by, because I just finally beat it. I had a lot of fun with it. This is actually one that I bought new, and there were a few games at the time, especially on PlayStation, that I got, and I started not having as much time to play, and I didn't uh, get very far, or sometimes got pretty decently far and didn't finish. Breath of Fire 3 was one that I started, and it I was having trouble getting into it. And if you play the game, then you understand what I'm talking about. It it's it's slow at first, and the way the whole plot goes, it needs to be slow at first. It needs to be more atmosphere and character driven. You need to see more of what's going on in this world before you find out why it's going that way. But the downside of that is it's very slow at first. There's not a lot of plot. It's very episodic, and and you're not really sure what the point of this game is for a while. And so I played for a little bit, and I put it aside. And I can't remember exactly why I put it aside, but I did. I came back to it after a while, and I got at that time to the midway point of the game, and there's a very distinct midway point of the game for those who have actually finished it. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit, but kind of the first part of this is going to be non-spoiler. So I got to the midway point of the game, and I dropped it again. And you know, recently, um, some people online were talking about it, and that kind of inspired me to pick it up again, but to really and start from the beginning, but to really intentionally get through it and to do well, and not to not to fall into old completionist ways which probably was hanging me up a lot, but to just to get through the game and kind of do the stuff I wanted to do, and leave um, uh, some of the nuances alone. Now, having seen the whole story, it's actually an exceptional story, and with a lot of really cool elements to it, and stuff that is not normal for that era of JRPGs, and stuff that's pretty innovative. Um, and unfortunately, all of that is built into a game that is very slow up front and has a little bit of wonky controlling, and it's just not that easy to deal with. And it really frustrates me to say that, because I really, really like the game, and I love the story and the characters, and some particular characters. And there's some really neat aspects of the game. In one I didn't notice until halfway through the game, but a lot of times you have a main character that doesn't speak. We saw this like Chrono Trigger and stuff. But there's sometimes that you might answer a yes or no question. And the way this game uses their yes and no questions, it's very rare, and every single time it's seriously important. And and I think here is where we really kind of need to get into a little bit of spoilers. And so If you don't want to hear more, now's the time, good time to stop the video. But so the first time I noticed the yes and no question is after the midway point, and Gar has betrayed you and attacked you, and you defeat him and run off, and then it's some amount of years later, a considerable amount of time has passed, and he finally finds you, and he asks you to forgive him, and you can answer him, and and it's the first time in the game I remember being able to answer someone. Um, and your answer does not necessarily impact the game very much, but it's a decision that you have to make. Um, and that moment in the game, it was it made it all the heavier that this is the first thing that I remember. I may have missed a question before that, but this is the first thing I think in the entire game that Ryu says, and it's like 20 hours into the game, and there's a few more, and each time you're faced with the choice of you've learned this much, and things are going to change if you keep going. Do you want to do that? And there was only really one question that I thought broke that, and I wish they hadn't done that. I wish they hadn't done that. But when you free Diaz, and when you free her, she's just completely nude, very bold woman. But when she kind of regains her form and all, she's kind of this half snake, kind of a Medusa type character. Um, and when she greets you, first of all, as a snake, she asks you, well, did you like my form better now or then? And that actually does have an impact on the game, the way you answer that question. But I wish they hadn't done that. I wish they hadn't done that, because every other question you answer has a lot of weight to it, and that one doesn't. And so even though it has an impact on the game, I really wish they had cut that one out. The other aspect of the game I loved was how ambiguous every single quest was. Every single character. And there's not any real good guys in this game. There's not any noble townsmen. They're a bunch of people who are trying to make do with what they have. And there's a significant amount of the game that you're a kid running away from these two characters who are, kidnapping you and the princess. I mean, they're kidnapping children, and you go to people for help, and they're too scared to help you. And I was just, I was just blown away by that aspect of the game, that they treated these minor characters, you know, well enough to really put some thought into how they would react to situations. Um, the quest you go on, you know, um, the very first quest you go on is this monster that is like, you know, terrorizing the town and stealing food and stuff. And you go kill the monster only to find out that the monster had been stealing that food to care for her her cubs. And and it just I mean, and it doesn't get any more clear cut as you go until the very end. Even in the very end, where you're face to face with Maria, and okay, and a second before that, um, when you finally find out what happened to Tipo, and you finally find out that not only was he your great friend as a child, but he was also one of you, one of the brood, and and you have a choice to make. You can keep going, which means killing him, because he has been convinced by Maria that the brood only bring destruction. and that they need to be controlled, or you can turn away. And here's the thing about that. Because if you keep going and you kill them, you prove them right. And he says that to you as he's dying. He says that. He says, see, I mean, this is why our race should be destroyed, because we bring nothing but bloodshed. And you have that weighing on you as you go up to Temeria. And she is extremely convincing that of just what Tipo said. I mean, that your race brings destruction and needs to be controlled, and she's the best person to control it. And you have to make that choice again. And you get, two different endings based on the choice you make. And so this is what you're thinking about, because you know the power that Ryu has. I mean, Miria is set up basically as a goddess, and you are able to beat her. But you have this choice that, can you control your power and be a force to support the world? Or do you think, that sort of power in one person is going to be destructive? And it's a video game, so you don't think of it very long, because, this is your character, and this doesn't, have really effect on anything, except I just beat the game and with the supposed good ending, But, if you let the game ask these questions to you, if you actually consider it, it's a harder choice. It's a harder choice than just a mere video game. And to put a finer point on it, I mean, there is nothing that Miria says or does that the two wings of our political system aren't both saying. And so, I'm, if you've seen my other videos, and I'll side with either one of them. And so I'm, really on Ryu's side, personal freedom, blah, blah, blah. But, there's a lot of people who play this game and shout down with Miria, and then vote for people who are saying the exact same thing. And I don't mean that to say, that the two, the last two presidential candidates were both evil goddesses who are trying to destroy the race of dragons. I'm saying it is in the way that what Miria says is very appealing and very tempting, and for a lot of people who are afraid of what the future brings, and just want someone in control of it. Even if that means less freedom, even if that means silencing groups. And so at the end of the day, it really is. It's kind of a shame that the gameplay on the game, it's not. Look, it's not bad. It's not bad. But at times it can get really annoying. And I'll just give you an example. It's like, I mean, there are times when, you have Nina, and she's supposed to be shooting her little magic wand at things, but the whole grid of the game is at angles. It's not straight up and down. So you're always running at diagonals, and so it's seriously annoying and difficult to aim, because you've got to slowly face in exactly that that angle direction instead of the cardinal directions, and And so, like, there's one particular part, and there might even be more than one, where you have a time limit to do this. And yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten to the end and shot the stupid thing in the wrong direction because, it did, my finger was slightly more north than east or whatever. And it's seriously annoying. And when you're trying to do subtle things in the game, and the game has you do a lot of different stuff. The game has you sneak around at places, and the game has you doing the various little um, side games and challenges, and some of them some of them are some of them are just too complex for their own good, and it's like you're doing this thing once and the instructions are longer than the game itself. It's kind of silly, and some of it is just a way to make the game longer by you go to this town. It's like, oh, the stuff you're looking for is on the beach, and you go to the beach, and the beach says, oh, well, I can't let you have it until you get this permission from this guy in the town. So you go back to the town. It's like, oh, okay, you have my permission, now go to the beach. And then you go to the beach. It's like, oh, well, now you need to help me with this stupid thing. And it's like, the plot actually hasn't advanced at all. It's just, I mean, we're just spending time at this point, to make the game a little bit longer. There's a lot of that, and it's really annoying. There's a lot of filler in this game, and when we're trying to do things, very precisely, and we're dealing with those the angles of everything it's quite frustrating and annoying. The excellent parts about them are the characters, and the the Dragon Gene system is great, and I the only thing I'd like to go back and do more of is to play with that more. Um, but the character, the plot, when you finally do get to the plot, and kind of halfway through the game, everything starts flowing together, and you really start to see how everything you've encountered actually means something and is very important. It just takes a while to get there, and so if you want to pick it up, it's going to take some patience, and but it's worth the ride. And so I actually just tackled Lost Levels, which I'm playing really for the first time, and I did. It took me a very long time. I'm not very good at platformers, but it took me a very long time. But I did get through 8-4. I beat 8-4. I've gone through the World 9. I, I put it aside. I'm not going to do the lettered levels. It took me way too long for the Lost Levels, and I want to kind of get back to Final Fantasy 12, which I still haven't beaten. But I really want to wrap that up. And so that's next on the list, and I appreciate y'all watching. If you've made it this far but haven't played Breath of Fire 3, if you are willing to put some time into it before the payoff is good. There's a lot of stuff at the end that I didn't even mention that's just neat writing, and so I appreciate it. I'll talk to y'all later.